And welcome to the Pacific Catch postgame show. The Warriors beat the San Antonio Spurs 144-113, 1-0 in the second half of the season. Season starts tonight. I got Aaron Larsoul across from me. That's how you know you've had a kind of like that type of season where anytime you have a big win, you're like, season starts today.
Yeah. I mean, look at all the demons exorcised, the road troubles. Are the Warriors still the worst? Do they still have the worst? I would imagine still have the worst road record in the league. They no longer have the best home record, but also,
yeah.
So I was breaking the record. It reminded me of the fact that the Warriors had I believe it was 32 game road losing streak to the Spurs, a lot of which took place there.
I was gonna say, you and I, on the older end of the spectrum of fans, winning in San Antonio means something more so than it probably means to the younger fans who aren't used to this just being the house of horrors. So, like, even though they suck, it still kind of felt good to get that win in San Antonio.
I think it was like 97. It was a 21-year streak, I believe. I think it was like 97 to 2016 that I
was in middle
Warriors
school.
Never won a
regular
season game on there.
I was in middle school in 97. And
I will not participate in this portion of the discussion. And so I reveal my true age.
I'll let you guys figure it out. But my point is, I mean, San Antonio, obviously Tim Duncan, David Robinson, everything, like they're gold standard forever. They're going through poor period now. But man, win there. Can we talk about the arena real quick? Like, did that feel like Final Four to you? Like, just like the sight lines,
Dante even said that, yeah.
No wonder Dante played so well. Dante looked like he was just like, I got this, wink, Final Four, swish, shooting like he's Steph Curry. But no, I don't know. I guess I want your opinion. Do you like, forget the football stadium thing because that's not good for anyone. Like in terms of a repeatable thing, do you like the sight lines you get from that? The way they shoot the camera, because like you get a better view of what's going on, but you don't get as much close up.
So I do like it for TV. I know guys usually hate it. Players usually hate it in college and in the NBA, you know, when they do the Final Fours in these huge cavernous places, or, you know, when they do the college games on the battleship, all of that. It just, it fucks with your jump shot. It kind of messes with you, which is why
you don't see
and it is a reason why like your depth perception is usually off. A lot of guys you see through the backboard and use that like first, the lower bowl crowd, and that's going to be different. And the angles are different because, you know, normally arenas are closer together and are steeper. The fans are steeper. So I know the guys don't like it, but I think it's a good thing on TV. It's a good product. Yeah.
I also think like, and this has, well, it's not about the arena, but like they probably can't get these angles without the kind of wider lens that a football arena gets. Like you got a lot more of those kind of, you could see downward and see what's going on in the court from kind of a coach's view.
It looks more like video game view.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I mean, experience, but you know, surprisingly, probably, or maybe not, because they're professionals and shoot a million threes anyway. But the Warriors shot the ball really well on jump shots today, and that usually takes some getting used to. Of course, you're going to have time to practice, and I would imagine both teams did their walkthroughs if they did them this morning at the arena to kind of, you know, try to get used to it. But it's it usually takes some adjusting, which is why, you know, in college basketball tournaments, you know, the conference tournaments, and then in they
fly out
actual tournament.
And
the first half under is usually the best bet in the world because it takes guys, you know, chance to get used to it. Guys are amped up, as I would imagine the Warriors and Spurs were tonight, because of the different environment, because of the, you know, trying to sell the building out or break the record, which they ended up doing. So usually the first half unders tend to be the bet for those things. And it looked like that at the beginning of the game. And then the Warriors go on the late first quarter run, and then have whatever 72 or 74, whatever it was by halftime.
Yeah. So like, I feel like once you get beyond that to the basketball side of it, like the big takeaway here is they played Warriors basketball. They're clearly the superior team to the Spurs when they lock in. Very balanced scoring. Steph really didn't assert himself. I mean, the box score says it all. Jordan Poole led the way, but it's like 9 players in double digits tonight.
I mean, that was obvious though, right? Like that was predictable.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole with that many people there, what it was, 68,000 something, I think the final number was.
Right.
There's going to be the requisite number of baddies for Jordan Poole to do his thing. Of course, he had the dribble off his leg turnovers when he's trying to do too much, but Jordan Poole is going to get buckets when there's that number of baddies. Although Charles Barkley would tell you that is not the city for that sort of thing.
No, not at all. Klay, excellent. And like the big thing for me is like, look, we're going to talk about this in a second. And the Warriors do have some roster holes they probably should address as we get to the trade deadline. But like when this team mentally locks in, they're a very good team. They may only have 2 big men, but they have a lot of players who know how to play basketball and know how to play the Warriors system of basketball. And when they're committed to it, they're a very dangerous team. And tonight was a perfect example of that. Like Dante, I mean, he was meant to play on the Warriors. He's probably not going to be on the Warriors next year also when you look at his opt-out, and someone's going to pay him more than the taxpayer mid-level, which is all they can pay him. But like, you look at him, meant to be a Warrior. Klay and Steph, when they are locked in mentally, as dangerous as ever. Wiggins can keep going down the line. Just they know how to play.
Yeah, I listened to you and Andy, your kind of midseason grade show.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to it last night. Maybe it came out the day before, but I listened to it last night. And
by the way, if you don't listen to it, you should.
Yeah, you should. It's good. You guys are in good form there. It's funny too. I don't know why I said that like it was a surprise. Like it was actually funny. But one of the things, I will not reveal anything for those that haven't listened yet, but I think the most, and you saw it again tonight, which is why I'm bringing it up. I think the biggest development, or the most positive development, I guess is a better way to put it, from the first half of the season, because it's probably not the biggest development, is that it looks kind of like Klay is Klay again. Yeah. And when I say Klay is Klay again, I mean like before he got hurt. Klay, is he 100% back? No, but he looks like 90, 92, 95% back, as opposed to I had them concerns that, he was 76% back and that was it.
The first couple of months I was like, do they have to waive him kind of bad? Like, I mean, I'm being hyperbolic, but it's just like, it was pretty bad there. And like, he looks excellent really since Steph's got injured. If we're being honest about it, I will continue to think like a player who's that historically good. Like he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's been in every big game that matters. A certain level of pride and like comes into it when it's like, all right, I got to step up or we're screwed coming with him. But like, he looks excellent right now.
Yeah. And I mean, I am struck by this, and yes, Tommy and I were arguing about this during the game a little bit on Twitter. You can say that there are definitely needs, and we'll get into it in a little bit here, and what to do about that. But since Steph and Wiggins have come back, this is even without Kuminga and without Wiseman and without JaMychal Green, the Warriors seem to be now have like just guys, like a lot of guys that can play. They're not all great, but there are a lot of guys. So you can see like, often it's no longer like, Ty Jerome. Oh god, we need like 25 minutes for Ty Jerome.
Can we buy 5 minutes here? Yeah.
It like they just kind of come in waves, and they keep having guys. It reminded me, there was a game some years ago. It may have even been a preseason game with the Warriors, and this is at the Warriors at their height, and I'm not comparing it to that, and this is not a strength in numbers. The guys aren't that good enough for that. But there was a preseason game, and the Warriors just kicked the shit out of somebody. And I was struck by the end of the game because the Warriors put their scrubs in, and you're like, well, actually, they don't have any. Right? You put the scrubs in, and they're still like NBA guys. And that's kind of what it feels like. It's Poole and DiVincenzo, and now Iggy's back. And I'm not a huge fan, but they're getting production from the two-way guy. And when Kuminga comes back, Moody played a bunch today and was okay. The Warriors just it seems like they have quite a few options. I don't know, is Patrick Baldwin injured? Why didn't he make him not making the trip?
Sent him to Santa Cruz
But this is exactly the time when he's going to get right. First, there's a need for guys that size. And secondly, it was obvious when he put Moody in so early that like this is the game, which frankly, you guys graded the coaching staff harshly on this. And I agree with you. Frankly, this is what they should have been doing at the beginning of the year, is getting these guys run, right? Getting Moody run, getting Patrick Baldwin run, getting Kuminga run. Wiseman will set aside for now. But this is a game against a team that you're obviously going to beat the shit out of the Spurs. The Spurs are terrible and trying to lose. This is the time to bring Patrick Baldwin and say, here's 15 minutes.
And who knows? They'll probably, I wouldn't be surprised if he flew out on the rest of the road trip. But you bring up the point. And I want to bring up Steve Kerr here real quick because he said this like 15 minutes ago. It's pretty good. I'm going to play it for you real quick.
Been inserting him early, as his rotation pattern. Why?
Right now, he's our third big. And so
Iggy that he's talking about.
I don't know that will continue to be the rotation pattern, but we like to have either Loon or Draymond on the floor at all times. So Andre's coming in for Loon early. So he's our, playing the 4 with Draymond at the 5, and then, Loon comes back for Draymond, and Andre stays in that lineup and plays with Loon. So it's it seems to work well that way, where he can pair with either one of those guys.
What you thought of Andre? I think he's played 3 games. Just what have you thought?
He looks great. He's so smart. He's so long and athletic and versatile defensively, and then just another passer, playmaker on offense. So he's he just, whatever lineup he's out there with, he makes better. And so knock on wood, hopefully continues to stay healthy, and we'll.
Do you believe him? Because I had a theory. I had a theory going into this, and what he's saying makes sense. Mm-hmm. But going into this, I had a theory. I tweeted this, that I thought they were going to the death lineup immediately because they wanted to get the Spurs up out of here, and
get on positive.
So you don't have to have the guys play. You don't have to have the real guys play many minutes, which ended up kind of happening. Even though like Draymond played late, and I think Loon was in at the end. That was one thought. My other thought was trying to send a message to Poole, like, you're coming off the bench now. You're not starting anymore, and you're not the 6th man anymore. Get it together.
I didn't see it as a Poole message. I saw it as a message to Bob Myers and Joe Lacob.
Get me somebody in here.
And I think that's kind of what I want to say from you. He purposely called him his 3rd big. Mm-hmm. And for those listening, the face was the face of a coach who felt weird calling a small forward a big. So I think, to me, it was Steve sending a message like, this is our best option to win. I don't know if these guys can do it for another 40 games in terms of, can Andre Iguodala play the power forward for 40 more games? You heard him. He's like, hopefully he'll be fine. That sort of thing, right? Like, and I'm
surprised it took Steve this long, because
he said it for a couple of weeks now, where he's just like, I'm concerned about Draymond and Loon holding up.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
And maybe it wasn't his first game back. Maybe it was his second game back. Iggy, I think he did it in his first game back too. But it was, I was struck by him like battling Bismack Biyombo a bunch, and Saric, and drawing offensive fouls and fighting them both in the post. I mean, it was like pretty obvious he was playing center a bunch and just got back, and we don't know how his body is doing in general.
He can do it. Like, it's admirable. Do you want him doing a January game? That sounds like a way to make sure he doesn't play in May, like that's kind of like what it, to me, that seems like the message, because when I watch the Warriors, I see the same thing you see, which is like, they kind of have a lot of guys who can play the Warriors way. Like, say what you want. They know what they want out of their players. The coaching staff does. Except for at the big man positions. It's just Draymond and Looney right now. JaMychal Green has the infection, and he'll come back, but he's not a Warriors big. not the way that they want
Certainly
one.
not thus far.
No, and James Wiseman, I mean, we can go through it for the 100th billionth time. But again, is he okay? Let me ask you this. Let me back this up.
Okay.
When I say a Warriors big, what do you think of?
I think
skill set wise, not like just what if I say what does Steve Kerr want out of a big man, ignoring like superstars? Because yes, he'll obviously he'd love to have Joel Embiid. Who wouldn't? Right?
No, sure, but he would also like it's two things though. I mean, he would also. I mean, there's okay. So what does he want and what does he need? I guess are the two ways to put it. What does he need? Is he needs Bogut, he needs Zaza, he needs adults in the room, guys that are really good screen setters that in a pinch can catch a lob, and that can hopefully function slightly as like the what is it, the hub, like the whatever the center of the wheel, with all the spokes going around. That's what Draymond does at an elite level.
And honestly, it's kind of Looney's getting really good at doing.
He is.
Run the split cut. You can be trusted to make a decision to pass it to the right player.
So, and I think the biggest one, the two things, the two main things that have to be there are defensive competence.
Yeah.
And like, you're not going to bury us. And offensively, you are a solid screen setter. The IQ stuff, that you used to get from Bogut, that you get from Draymond with the passing and all of that, that's what you would want. But what you need to do is be a solid screen setter and competent defensively. And right now, James Wiseman is neither of those.
Yeah. So what do you think Steve actually wants, though, from that position?
I think he would. I mean, I think he would love like some kind of, let's call it like a JaVale McGee / Andrew Bogut like hybrid, right? Bogut didn't have the lift anymore to really be a lob threat like JaVale was. Get that vertical.
And JaVale doesn't have the vision and passing ability to kind of function like as a DHL guy and that sort of stuff. So he doesn't have the IQ, the defensive IQ that Bogut had, the positioning and all of that, but he does have the length and athletic ability like James has to be a deterrent as a shot blocker. So I think you would want, like, I think if you could have him design a center in a lab, Steve Kerr, it would be the IQ and skill of Andrew Bogut with the length and body and athleticism of JaVale McGee. Although everybody would like that guy. So it's not, I don't think it's just Steve, but I think those things are even more emphasized in the Warriors system, especially the screening. So let's talk about a one Jakob Poeltl then.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're playing against the Spurs. They blew the Spurs out. Honestly, they should always blow the Spurs out if they're healthy. Like, the talent gap between the two teams is absurdly wide. Poeltl, I think he showed some good stuff, and he also looked limited tonight. But
because that's who he is. He's a good but limited player. Yeah,
there's a huge talent gap between the two teams.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on a one Jakob Poeltl?
I think you and I have talked about it on this show before, and Tommy and I were arguing about it on Twitter earlier today.
Sure.
I don't think he's right for the Warriors. He's good. He's a good defender. He's not great. He's good. He changes shots. He is not embarrassing on the perimeter. He's not great, but he's not embarrassing on the perimeter. He's enormous. He's a really good rebounder, especially offensively. He's a good defensive rebounder. He's a great offensive rebounder. He's a really good rebounder overall. He has some skill. He's not going to shoot the ball, but he has some skill as far as passing. So there are plenty of things to like.
I think he's an excellent passer. I think that's the skill that's probably most attractive to the Warriors. Well, no,
I think it was the passing and the offensive rebounding.
The rebounding and screen setting is the most attractive, but the passing is pretty high up there.
The problem, though, is, and this is going to be the problem and yes, the Warriors need bodies, and I don't know why, other than tax avoidance. I don't know why. And it's hard to call penny pinching when you have the biggest
at some point you hit a limit. Yeah.
Right. So it's hard to call it penny pinching, but the penny pinching, what I don't understand is why there isn't a 10-day guy, why there are competent bigs all over the place always. Like it is the position where there are guys at the minimum available free agents still that are NBA caliber players all over the place. That's not true of wings. It's not true of point guards.
It's definitely not true of wings.
Centers, they're all over the place, right? If
Sure.
you go down, like, if you go to available free agent, pick, a basketball website and go to currently available free agents and sort by height. So the tallest guys are first. You're going to find a bunch of like.
Shout out Dwayne Dedmon.
Right,
he was
exactly.
literally a guy that the Heat picked up a year ago who it was surprising couldn't find a job, but yeah, to your point.
Or whatever, like Bielitsa is technically, but like my point is there are guys that are not in the NBA that are like, it doesn't take much squinting to say like, is he any good? No, but like, fine. My problem with Poeltl for the Warriors isn't really a Poeltl question. It is a position question. The only argument I see to trade for a center is that Loon and Dre are like dying. In the playoffs, in the playoffs, I don't get it, because in the playoffs, Kevon Looney is going to start at center, and in the third of the games that he doesn't start at center, Draymond is going to start at center.
Sure,
but in normal games, Loon is going to play 22 minutes at center, 20 minutes. At center?
I would say 20,
18
to
20. Let's call it 20.
Like a decent enough guess. Yeah.
Okay, let's call it 20. And Draymond's going to play 20 minutes at center too. So there's 8 minutes left. Is the gap? The incremental, the marginal improvement that you're going to get in the other 8 minutes from Jakob Poeltl over Wiseman or insert free agent minimum big, is that worth giving up on James Wiseman? Not to me. Now, if your argument is these guys are dying and we need to get to the playoffs, okay, but then I would still say, yeah, okay, if you need an innings eater to soak up some minutes, fine, then just go get a free agent. Go sign a minimum free agent.
So I hear you on that. The innings eater thing is true. And my general position on this is I want to see what the market actually looks like when we get to the last week of the trade deadline to make a determination of, is a Mason Plumlee potentially going to get bought out? Not as good as Poeltl, but Plumlee on the buyout market's better than giving up an asset for Poeltl, right? Like
correct.
From just like,
and it's not even an asset. It's Wiseman, because like
sure
the contract, it has to be.
Sure. But like, you're just thinking it through. I'm going to push back on your argument regarding positional need. Let's just think this one through a little bit. Okay. So you're right. There are certain matchups where the Warriors are going to want to go 25 minutes of Draymond at center. And those matchups, it's kind of like Looney or Poeltl, one or the other. You don't really need both, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's going to be matchups where they want to go big a little more. And that's where having an extra body helps. And more than anything, I'm just looking at this from a fouling standpoint, and this is a general flow. They need a third big. Would it be ideal if the third big could play with both Draymond and Looney? Yes. But I'll take someone like Poeltl, who I can trust, let's just say 20 minutes a game. I don't think he can really play more than 20 in the playoffs, at least when you get to the better competition. Right. I think 20 is probably who he is. If you're talking about adding a 15 to 20 minute per game player, I think that could swing a playoff series. I think that's the type of thing that can save you from going 7 in a playoff series.
Okay, so then the follow-up question is, sure, like it would be nice to have, sure. But we'll use Jakob Poeltl as the example because that's who we're talking about.
Sure.
Is the difference between Jakob Poeltl and whoever else that other guy would be, whether it's Wiseman, whether it's JaMychal Green, frankly, whether it's Iguodala soaking up those fouls, or whether it's insert buyout guy or insert free agent big man, right? Like Derek Favors was just signed to a 10-day, whatever. Is the difference between Jakob Poeltl and Derek Favors worth giving up on Wiseman? To me, it's not.
I don't know the answer to that. I got to see where we land on that one, but I do think Poeltl's a lot better than Derek Favors. Now,
of course he is.
We'll see. We'll see who comes on the buyout market. But to me, James Wiseman's in year 3 and he's shown nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He's trending more towards becoming Hassan Whiteside than he is towards becoming a star.
Hassan Whiteside got a max contract.
Does that mean he's worth it?
No, of course not. But he has to
that's
show something to get.
I mean, he's a talented
I
player.
think, by the way,
That's
I
my
think the
point.
Warriors would take
talented-
it if he's as good as Hassan Whiteside at this
He's a
point.
talented player, but my point is you can find that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think
you
you're
can literally find Hassan Whiteside now for the minimum.
I'm not even trying to be a dick about it, but yeah, you can find that.
Yes.
Someone like Poeltl, who fits their system, who can fill in for Looney, who can do various other things that they require of a big man, that might get you 3 more wins. 3 wins. Right now, they're 3 wins away from the 3 seed.
You're talking about in the regular season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, both things are true. They could be the 3 seed. They could be the 10 seed right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're at a certain point, they have to address that problem too. So I don't know if I would do it. For me, I need to see what my available options are come trade deadline. And like you, if I'm going to trade James Wiseman, even as disappointing as he's been the whole thing,
right?
I would like someone with more versatility than someone who I think caps out at 18 minutes per game in a playoff series, right? Like, just being real, I would. But we get to the deadline. I don't know if my options are better than that. So I don't want to poo-poo it is basically what it comes down to.
No, I think it's a fair question to ask, and I think it's a reasonable discussion. I just end up on the side of when the games really matter, I'm getting 8, 10, 12 minutes from this guy. And
also I reject that because I think he's better than Looney in a lot of situations. So
have you watched him shoot a free throw?
True.
That's a thing in the playoffs too.
Sure.
And it's not about Poeltl's a good player. It's about the like what the difference is. And if the marginal difference between Poeltl and whoever else would be filling whatever you say those minutes are, I say they're 8 to 10. You might say 15. Whatever.
I'm closer to 15. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. Fine.
What if adding a player like him makes it easier for someone like Kuminga or Moody to play in the playoffs? Because now you have a central hub who anchors your defense, and you have less. You need to play less smoke and mirrors on the back line. So someone like Kuminga can just truly be kind of like stick to him, seek and destroy. I don't need you helping the back line because I'm doing that sort of stuff. Like I'm looking at it through the lens of, does this acquisition solidify things to make other players better, to make it worth it too?
So that's a fair argument also.
Mm-hmm.
And my response to that is, and this is the other part of it, is that why I think you can get away with, well, let me go back to one other thing and then I'll get to that. The other thing about trading Wiseman, even if you have as an organization kind of given up on him, or not given up, but you're ready about it.
Move on to
this is about the lowest his trade value, like this
Sure.
is the lowest his trade value is going to be. Is it going to get like, I mean, can it be nothing? I suppose it could, but like this is certainly not a high point.
You're correct. Like no matter how bad it is now, they can get more for him in the summer.
And the other thing about, those, what I call 8 to 10 minutes, what you call 15, I think it matters less how good that player is in the playoffs specifically, because yes, the starters are playing more, obviously, which is going to be Looney and Draymond for the most part. But the other teams, right, going up against, let's call it Wiseman, right? Let's take extremes. Let's say it's either Jakob Poeltl or James Wiseman. Okay, well, James Wiseman is going to be going against second unit guys. And you can probably get away with it more with Iguodala or theoretically JaMychal or even Kuminga playing a few center minutes, because the second unit guys for the other teams aren't as good. Like when I'm saying like, is it Poeltl or Wiseman, let's say, well, you don't have to, it's not really which one of those guys is going to be guarding Joker, right? It's which one of those guys is going to be fighting, like, let's say last year, which one of those guys is going to be fighting DeMarcus Cousins, right?
Sure.
Second unit centers are worse and generally smaller. So I think you have more leeway to get away with it with kind of patching it together.
What do you say to the idea that Looney's starting to look worn down and maybe he needs to be the second unit center? Maybe they need a starting center. I mean, to me, when I look at the Warriors team, they need to add a player who can make an impact in the front court.
I don't reject that. I don't reject that. I reject the center thing. I don't reject front court.
I agree with you. I'd rather it not be a center, but if the best available option is a center, I'd rather rock with that than like be like, well, I don't want a center. I'm waiting for like the mythical Otto Porter 2.0, you know, who, you know, I'm a big Otto guy, but like it's not. I mean, his foot.
That's the Raptors fans.
His
They're
foot
feeling
literally,
about that right
his
now.
foot fell off in the process. You know, he gave his foot for the ring.
Yeah.
To be fair, I'm sure he'd do it again. I appreciate Otto, but
give the other one.
Yeah, and have you know, Bob Myers push him around all day. So, but yeah, I don't know.
Going to the ring ceremony in what? 20, in 23 in the Paul Pierce wheelchair.
I want to wrap it on this because you know, we'll keep it short tonight. I don't want them to acquire a center just because like we've seen for years upon years, this team's better with versatility around Steph.
Yeah.
But if it's a center who can play versus, I don't know, a mystery box, I'll take the center. You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure,
it's
but
not
but then you're trading James Wiseman.
The mystery box.
Then you're trading James Wiseman. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. But you're trading James Wiseman, and you know, whatever. It's some movie. I think it's Unforgiven, which is a great movie, right? When Clint Eastwood, we'll put aside the problematic nature of Clint Eastwood, but he tells the young gunfighter, ask him if you ever kill a man, and you say like, you take everything that he is and everything that he was and everything that he could be or is going to be. Like, if you trade James Wiseman, that's it. I'm certainly not optimistic anymore about James Wiseman, but the reason he has any trade value at this point is because, yes, he was a number 2 pick. And yes, there's all this, the tantalizing moments. I'm not against trading James Wiseman. I'm just going to need a little bit more than somebody I think is going to play 8 to 10 minutes in the playoff series.
Okay. We'll leave it at that. You guys give us your thoughts on that one. Appreciate you, Aaron.
Anytime,
as
brother.
always.